Elena felt like a ghost in her own home. Her husband, Mark, was a quiet man, too quiet, as if he'd perfected the art of keeping her at arm's length. They'd been married for almost a decade, but the warmth and laughter they once shared had faded to shadows. Conversations were brief, rarely dipping below the surface. He often retreated to his phone or computer, talking with people she didn't know, and whenever she tried to engage him, his answers were flat and mechanical. As days blurred into one another, a hollowness settled inside Elena. It felt like drowning, her heart sinking under a heavy sadness she couldn't shake. She didn't remember the last time she'd felt genuinely happy, and that thought terrified her. She withdrew from her friends and family, not wanting to answer questions she didn't have the energy to fake her way through. She found herself losing interest in everything she once loved: her art, her books, even the small garden she'd once nurtured with so much care. Sometimes she wondered if life would even change if she simply vanished. The thought scared her, but she didn't know how to escape it. One cold November morning, she got a friend request on social media. It was from Dylan, her high school friend, someone who'd been her confidant and partner in crime back in those carefree days. She hadn't heard from him in years, and his name jolted her out of her numbness. She hesitated, but accepted, curiosity stirring somewhere in her chest. Within minutes, a message popped up. "Elena, I can't believe it's really you. How have you been?" Something in his words felt like a warm breeze, gentle and familiar. They started catching up, their conversations slowly bridging years. He lived in another city now, but they messaged each other every day. Dylan was kind, attentive, and genuinely interested in her life. Unlike Mark, he listened. He remembered details from their shared past, made her laugh about things she'd forgotten, and even asked about her art. As the weeks went by, Elena felt something long buried come back to life. Dylan encouraged her to pick up her paintbrushes again, and though her strokes were hesitant at first, they grew stronger, more vibrant. Painting became her therapy, a way to release the emotions she'd kept locked inside for so long. Her spirits began to lift. Dylan reminded her of who she once was, a woman with dreams, passions, and a fierce love for life. One evening, after another joyful conversation with Dylan, Elena stared at herself in the mirror. She didn't recognize the woman who had once thought about giving up. She remembered the fire that had once burned inside her and realized how dim it had grown over the years. But now, piece by piece, she was reclaiming herself. It wasn't long before they decided to meet in person. When Dylan arrived, his warm smile and familiar presence made her feel like a part of her heart was coming home. They spent hours together, talking and laughing as if no time had passed. Dylan looked at her with a softness that was both comforting and exhilarating. And for the first time in years, Elena felt truly seen. Mark noticed the change in her, the newfound glow in her cheeks, the way she spent less time waiting for his attention and more time doing things that brought her joy. But he didn't ask. Elena realized then that his indifference was something she'd never be able to fix. As the months passed, her connection with Dylan deepened. He showed her a tenderness and care she'd almost forgotten was possible. One afternoon, while they walked through a park she used to visit as a child, Dylan stopped and took her hand. "I never thought I'd find you again, Elena, but being with you now feels right." Tears filled her eyes, but this time they were tears of joy. She realized she didn't have to settle for a life that made her feel small. She'd found someone who loved her for who she was, someone who cherished her heart and her dreams. With Dylan's support, she made the hard decision to leave her marriage. It wasn't easy, but she knew that a life with him was a life where she could truly be herself. Together, they built a life filled with love, laughter, and the dreams they'd both held close. And in Dylan's arms, Elena rediscovered not only the power of love, but also the strength and beauty of her own spirit.